No Credits Roll.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 21 of No Credits Rolled. My name is Sam Whalen. On today's episode we've got some news we're going to cover, and then I'm going to talk about what I've been playing lately. No big review this week, kind of just a little bit of a gaming grab bag. I should probably get that trademarked. It's a thing. I don't know if I've done that before. It was definitely an idea I had, but we're doing it now. So a gaming grab bag, a little bit of a grab bag of news stories as well. But before we get into all that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the show, wherever you get your podcasts. We're, of course, on TikTok, which stuck around, apparently. YouTube, all podcast providers, we will be there for you. So just search No Credits Rolled, and we will be there for you, like I just said. Let's start the show. First story today, we've got Sony cancels an unannounced live service God of War game. This is kind of old news now, but I wanted to talk about it because it kind of interested me. This originally comes from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. He's like the, for those of you that follow the sports world, he's like the Adam Schefter of gaming news, right? He's always like the big guy that's going to break all the big stories, and that's exactly what he did here. But because I don't subscribe to Bloomberg and it was behind a paywall, I'll be citing an article from The Verge and Richard Lawler over there at The Verge. So he wrote, quote, one, as in one of the games canceled. They canceled two games, by the way. I didn't include that in the headline. One of them was a live service God of War game, and the other one was from Bend Games. So this is from Richard Lawler over at The Verge. He says, quote, one was from Siphon Filter and Days Gone developer Bend Games, which Schreier reports the other shuttered title was a live service God of War game that Bluepoint Games has been working on for the last couple of years. So yeah, we finally know what Bluepoint has been up to. That's been something on the mind of a lot of people since Sony acquired them. Of course, Bluepoint, I know them best for the Demon Souls remake. I've got, a handful of hours in that. But I looked it up, and apparently they also did the Uncharted remake trilogy of those original three games, and the remake of Shadow of the Colossus. So, they're known for their high-quality remakes, but this looks like it was going to be something kind of new for them in the God of War universe, but not anymore. Of course, we know Sony has pivoted away from their live service strategy after the failure of stuff like Concord and Suicide Squad, but I think it was not that long ago. They were fully going to commit to live service stuff. They had 12 live service games lined up, and they ended up, after a couple failures, like I said, with Concord and Suicide Squad, which wasn't a Sony game, but these companies look at these numbers and they can kind of read the tea leaves. So it looks like they're pulling out on this God of War live service game, whatever that would have been. The Verge article also mentions the leaked, canceled Spider-Man live service game, which I completely forgot about. That was back when we had that Insomniac hack leak situation. So yeah, there was supposed to be a Spider-Man live service game. There was that Last of Us game, the Last of Us Factions, whatever that was going to be. That ended up getting shelved. We're still waiting on Marathon from Bungie. That's like their next big thing. Now that Destiny 2 has kind of been sunsetted. Marathon, of course, I think it's a revival of an old Bungie property from way before my time. But I know they're trying to turn it now into a extraction shooter. But we haven't really gotten a whole lot of info on that. I mean, there was a little bit of a tease I don't even know how long ago that was. Game Awards, maybe 2 years ago. But haven't heard much from that. So, Sony's kind of pivoting away from these live service games, which I think is a good thing. If you've listened to the show, you know how I feel about these kind of games. While I do play and support a lot of them, I think a lot of the times they are seen as cash cows that aren't given enough time to breathe and are instantly shut down, like we saw with Concord. Everybody wants a juggernaut like Fortnite, and that's just not... You just can't replicate Fortnite's success that many times, right? I feel like it's diminishing returns every time something like that comes along. I mean, there's Fortnite, Apex, Warzone, but it's to try to get another one in that space, it's very, very difficult. And quite frankly, a lot of these devs and a lot of these companies, the people, the bean counters and stuff at the top, they see that it's not instantly a profit, and that's just kind of wraps for it. So yeah, this sucks for the team over at Bluepoint. The article quotes that they were working on it for a couple of years. So, I mean, that's got to be tough losing that. Hopefully they can work that into another project and it's not just all down the drain. But it really got me thinking, like, what was this game going to be? A live service God of War game. I saw an article when I was researching stuff for this episode about a leak. There was a leak from a person on Patreon. They paywalled the stuff behind Patreon, but apparently it's like a well-known leaker, so take it all with a big spoonful of salt. But they mentioned that the Sony Santa Monica was casting for something, and they were speculating that there was an Egyptian God of War coming out, or that was being casted for. So maybe there's some connecting of the dots there. What could that have been what this was? Like I said, this info is pretty tenuous, so I didn't want to give it too much time, but just something to think about. I mean, maybe that's what this was. I have no idea. I don't know how a God of War. You can hear a cat in the background. That's my cat Marley. He just inserts himself into the conversation whenever he wants, which is fair. Anyway, we're still getting that God of War TV show. I mean, Sony just announced all kinds of stuff recently, right? We got The Last of Us Season 2, which we already knew about. We're getting a Horizon Zero Dawn movie, God of War TV show. So, there's still more God of War stuff coming out. Presumably, there'll be more games. But yeah, I was kind of just hung up on what this game would have looked like. Like I said, it sucks for Blue Point. They're not going to get to make their game. But honestly, I'm glad they're not doing this live service stuff with God of War. To me, like, especially these new God of Wars, the 2018 and Ragnarok, they're really special games to me. Like, they really hit for me on an emotional level, on a gameplay level. I just think they're special, right? I think they're a testament to what gaming can be. And they're something that, like, while they are very video gamey in terms of mechanics and stuff, I think the narratives can appeal to anyone, even if you don't play video games. And that's one of the reasons I really like them. So I think putting that property into the live service grinder, or, whatever you want to call it, I just think it kind of taints the magic of it. And, like, the God of War games are these epic narrative action games. I just feel like you wouldn't be able to get that hyper-focused feel that these games have in something like a live service game. Now, I feel the same way about Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man 1, the PS4 version, love that. One of my favorite games of all time. Spider-Man 2, it was fine. I was pretty disappointed by it, but, like, those games are still special. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. And I wouldn't want to see that game go through the live service treatment either. However, I do think I think Spider-Man would have been a better fit for a live service model if you're going to make it a multiplayer game, especially if it's like a Spider-Verse multiplayer, multiple spider people zipping around. I just think that universe lends itself to that gameplay a little bit more. Whereas a God of War, I just don't know how that would really work, especially with how story-centric those games tend to be. How would you fit that in? If it's like an Egyptian thing, it could just be a total spin-off, not even connected to Kratos and Atreus and all them, but maybe we'll never know now. And then there's the other final parts of the story I wanted to touch on before we hit the next one. And that was what was Bend Studios working on. Now, I've never heard of them. I didn't realize that they made Days Gone. I couldn't tell you, gun to my head, what studio made Days Gone. But that was Bend Studios. And people dunked on Days Gone, and they still do, but that game really is not that bad. I enjoyed it. I played it. I didn't finish it, obviously, because I never finish any games, but I played a decent amount of it, and, it really wasn't that bad. It's unfortunate that it gets compared to The Last of Us, because they're two different games, right? I mean, yes, they have zombies and, emotional storytelling and dead loved ones and stuff, but I think Days Gone was definitely its own thing, and I would even play a sequel to that if it came out, honestly. Like, I don't think that game was that bad. But we don't know what they were working on. We don't know if it was a new IP, if it was a sequel, if it could have been anything, really. And now we're probably not going to know unless someone from this team speaks on it. But yeah, you hate to see stuff get canceled, but maybe if we can use this manpower now to make something more single player focused and move away from that live service model, I'm all for it. I just don't think it's successful long term when it comes to, like, fostering these properties and, like, having a good catalog of games to show off. I just think the live service is a tough way to go with that. So yeah, that's pretty much my final take on that. Moving on to story number 2. Yes, folks, we did have the Nintendo Switch 2 revealed. The last episode we did, that news dropped a couple days after, which we all kind of thought was going to happen. The leaks were all pointing to an impending announcement, which we ended up getting. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because there wasn't a whole lot of info with this announcement. It was basically just hey, this is a thing, right? Like, we're really doing this. You can all stop leaking stuff. It's the Switch 2, so rest in peace, my Super Switch dreams. Bummer, but hey. We're going to get more info at an April 2nd Direct. The moment I saw this date, I was like, hey, did they move this so it wasn't April 1st, so it wouldn't be on April Fools? I doubt they really even considered that, but it just was making me wonder. So after they do this Direct on the 2nd, they're going to have what they call Nintendo Switch 2 experiences at various big cities around the world. So this will allow gamers to, quote, this is from Nintendo's website, go hands-on with the Nintendo Switch 2 in cities around the world. I don't really know what that means. I guess it'll probably be for like press and stuff to get their hands on it. So I imagine we'll probably get more previews and articles about it then. I really my biggest thing is I just want to know the specs yet for this thing. We haven't gotten that yet. I'm sure that'll be at the Direct. We did get a little bit of the video for the announcement showed it off pretty well. In terms of what it physically looks like, it's got the 2 USB ports, which I mentioned before. It's got magnetic controllers. It's a lot bigger. The end of the announcement trailer, they do a kind of a side-by-side with the original Switch and the Switch 2, and it's pretty significantly bigger, which is good if you play it handheld. You have a bigger screen. I think people were comparing it more to the size of a Steam Deck now versus the original Switch. So, bigger is always better, guaranteed. But honestly, the 2 USB port thing is pretty nice too. I think having that is going to really, for convenience sake, go a long way, especially if you have it docked. Because before, when you had it docked, you couldn't charge off of it as effectively, but having that port right on the top will make that a lot easier. It's a little quality of life stuff like that. The magnetic controllers, I wanted those, got those, easy. I also saw some people, because they showed a little bit of the new Mario Kart in the reveal. So we got a new map for that. It looks like some kind of desert, another desert map, but it's a different desert. So, new content either way. That's a good thing. And I think it's more players. I don't remember the exact number because I'm not the craziest Mario Kart guy. But I know people they show a shot of the starting lineup for the race, and there's double the amount of slots for cars. So that'll be cool. Maybe 24 player Mario Kart. Maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, that if this thing can, hypothetically have better processing power, then I'm sure it can accommodate stuff like that. As a quick little side note here, before we move on from Nintendo in general, I went and checked out the Animal Crossing Aquarium Partnership National Tour thing. It was pretty cool. It gave me an excuse to go to the aquarium, and it was a nice day out. It wasn't, in your face with the Animal Crossing stuff. There was, in addition to the regular information for different exhibits, they'd have little Blathers, the owl archaeologist guy from that game, the curator, additional little Blathers signs with more info, which was cool. There was a lot of cardboard cutouts. You could buy little plushies of Animal Crossing characters, which honestly, they were pretty high quality plushies, I will say. They were $25 though, which is kind of ridiculous. But they were high quality, so to each their own. They had a couple big displays that you could pose in front of, which were pretty cool. But it's nothing crazy. But if you like Animal Crossing, it wasn't any additional price either. It was just the regular admission for the aquarium, and then you can go and get all that stuff as well. But if it's at your local aquarium, if you've never been to your local aquarium, I highly recommend it. Aquariums are always cool. I think they can maybe be a little forgotten. People tend to think of the zoo first as the big animal attraction, but hey, support your local aquariums. I recommend it. Anyway, one more story on the docket. Today we had the Xbox Developer Direct 2025. I covered this last year, and this was another great showcase from Xbox. And I enjoyed this one probably just as much as last year's. There were like two games that I wasn't like super into, right? Like South of Midnight and Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I don't really like those games. Really aren't doing a whole lot for me, and that was two of the four games that were shown. So I'll just give a little brief snippet on each of these games. South of Midnight, I think, looks very cool. Obviously, visually, really cool art direction. I like the swamp. I like they're doing like a Into the Spider-Verse frame rate like adjustment for your character. The gameplay for me is just not really doing a whole lot. It looks pretty generic. It looks very much like fighting the corruption with abilities and like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not giving it enough credit, but you know, it's doesn't look that appealing to me. And then Claire Obscure, I have no idea what to make of this game. The presentation honestly left me more confused than I was going in, and I didn't really know anything about the game. It's turn-based, we know that, and there's a lot of story elements involved. There's a lot of like different ways you can roll characters. It looks like the game looks very, very pretty. I think visually it's very graphically impressive. But I just don't really know what else to take from it. But again, it looks very high quality though. And for both of these games, I'll definitely check them out because they're going to come to Games Pass. So it's like, why not try them? I love trying new games. South of Midnight comes out on April the 8th, and Claire Obscure, I feel like it was Claire Obscura. That might be a typo, so forgive me. But that game comes out on the 24th of April, so both those coming out in April. You know, go check out the Direct if you want to know more about those games. But I'm going to cover the stuff that really piqued my interest. We've got Ninja Gaiden 4, which kind of caught some people off guard. That's going to launch in fall of this year. We also had the shadow drop of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. And you know who shadow drops a lot? Ninjas. So think about that. I played Ninja Gaiden as a kid. I don't know which one I played. It was just kind of one of those games my dad had on our Xbox that I would boot up. And it would like, for me, it was just the cool ninja game where I got to stab people. So like, I have no idea what the story of those games is. I just like being a ninja. So getting to play this remake of Ninja Gaiden 2, Ninja Gaiden, I think the Black, like it's called Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. I think that means it's a remake. So, because they already did the first one, Ninja Gaiden Black, which is a remake of the first game. So this is a remake of the second game. But it's made in Unreal Engine 5, so it looks very pretty. I'm going to talk about it in the review portion of the show. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty impressive looking. What we got to see of Ninja Gaiden 4, it looks like more Ninja Gaiden. So, you know, I'll definitely play that when it comes out. More cyberpunk, more ninjas, more action. And it looks, I think they said something, you're going to be able to play as multiple characters, which is always fun. Not that I know who any of the characters are. There's the ninja guy, and then I think there was a woman and maybe another ninja. I don't know. But yeah, that's Ninja Gaiden. I don't know if I wrote anything else for it. That was kind of it. Like I said, I'll talk more about Ninja Gaiden 2 in the review portion of the show. But yeah, fall 2025 for Ninja Gaiden 4. So happy for fans of that series out there. Then we ended the presentation with Doom: The Dark Ages. This is launching on May the 15th of this year. Oh baby, am I excited for this game. I was a big fan of the original, well, not the original Doom, but Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. So just keep giving me more of this, you know, like I just think every one of these games has been an absolute knockout. I think they're a ton of fun. I think they're like the peak of what a first-person shooter can be. And it looks like they're kind of taking it in a little bit of a different direction with this game, which I like, because I think after Eternal, some people felt like it might be getting a little stale, right? They're kind of looking for, how are we going to take Doom to the next level? How are we going to mix it up for this third installment? And I think that's exactly what they're doing here with Doom: The Dark Ages. So there's like a parry mechanic where you can like block, and then there's 3 different medieval melee weapons. I think they showed like a flail. There's probably a sword, and then there's another one. So you can like parry and hit back with that, which is pretty cool. There's a chainsaw shield that you have, so the gameplay is a little bit different. They talked about in the presentation how Doom 1 was like run and gun. Doom 2 was more about like jumping and gunning with all the platforming stuff, which people didn't really like. I didn't really mind it. It was whatever. And then this one, they said it's more about like standing and fighting. So you've got the shield, you've got the parry mechanic. And that just seems more up my alley. Like I'm not the one that's like, I got my sensitivity up to like 5,000 and I'm just zipping around the map doing crazy shots. I'd rather be able to have a shield and be able to parry and kind of just 1v1 enemies if I can. So it looks like that's what we're getting in the Dark Ages. It's a prequel to the first game, and I think they said it leads directly into Doom 2016, so that's kind of cool. I'm not like super into the lore of these games. I just like everything. It's one of those games where just everything sounds cool, like all the enemies, it's all like biblical, so there's like angels and demons and all that stuff sounds pretty cool. Not really clear on what any of it really, how any of it really connects, but you know, that's okay. We're just here to rip and tear. They showed off more weapons, new weapons. There's a gun that like crushes skulls and shoots out the parts. That was pretty cool. There's going to be like a 30-story tall mech that you'll be able to pilot. They showed a little bit of that. I'm really interested to see how that feels to play. If it's like an extension of the main gameplay, which is kind of what it looked like in the brief little bit we saw. There's a dragon you can fly around. That's pretty cool. Dragons are fun. Like, what more could you want, right? And I just think it's like, how can we make Doom even cooler? It's like, let's make it medieval. And yeah, it just looks sick. It looks like we're going to have some supporting characters. They showed like a dude with a beard, you know? More new enemy types maybe. You know, very much just looking forward to this. There is like a little bit of an elephant in the room with this when it comes to the whole Mick Gordon situation, who is, of course, the original composer for these games. He's not returning for this game. There was a whole whole kerfuffle with him and id Software. He accused them of unpaid wages and abuse by some of the staff there. I think either id Software or Bethesda came back and were like, nuh-uh. So it's like, it's a real sticky situation there. And I think it's unfortunate no matter what way you look at it, but I hope Mick isn't like blacklisted from gaming. I hope he can still find work and stuff like that, even though this was like a PR nightmare for everyone involved. And they came out and said the new composer for this, I think it's a duo. I don't remember their names, but it's a duo composing Doom the Dark Ages. So hopefully the music still rocks. And, cause you know, that's a big part of these games. I think that people look forward to these soundtracks. And I am as well. But I thought Doom was a great way to wrap up this direct, right? I mean, the overall presentation gave us a big look at, you know, what Xbox has going on in 2025. You know, is it going to be an off year? Is it going to be an on year? What are the big releases that we're going to be looking forward to every couple months to get us coming back to Games Pass and checking out what we got? And that's exactly what this presentation did. I mean, it pretty much lined us up for the year, right? Releases in April, May. I mean, you got that big chunk between May and the fall whenever Ninja Gaiden comes out, but I think it was a pretty solid roadmap going forward for 2025. So that's going to wrap up the news portion of the show. We're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Ninja Gaiden 2, and we're going to dive even deeper into the gaming grab bag. You are listening to No Credits Rolled. All right, and we're back on No Credits Rolled. The first game we got up in the gaming grab bag. I should have like a sound effect where I like reach around in a bag. Someone write that down. I'll do that next time. Ninja Gaiden 2. No, sorry. Ninja Gaiden Black 2, I think, is the correct order of those words. So yeah, I touched on this in the news, but this was a shadow drop as part of the Xbox Developer Direct. Very cool. Who doesn't love a shadow drop, especially when it's included in Games Pass? First thing I'll say, this game looks absolutely incredible. It was made with Unreal Engine 5, so it's very pretty, very smooth. There's lots of rain, which always looks cool. Lots of neon. I just think it looks great. I think it's worth booting up just to look at it. I think we're in that stage where like anything that gets made with Unreal Engine 5 just looks really impressive. And you know, this game is no exception. I mean, there are some downsides with this, right? This is a remake of like a game that came out in like 2008. I could be way off with that number, but it's an old game, and they haven't changed like the level design and stuff. So some of that stuff doesn't age super well, which I'll touch on right now because I wrote it first in my notes. The camera is not always your friend, right? It's one of those things where the camera, it's kind of like old Resident Evil games where you like, as you walk, the camera follows you and will reposition itself depending on what section of the map you're in, which can be kind of disorienting. There's a whole button dedicated to telling you which way you're supposed to go, which I love because otherwise I'd be getting lost constantly. Because there's no like objective markers. you just kind of use that. So yeah, there's that with the camera. There's also just like basic control functions that I'm not a big fan of. I find the way blocking and dodging, how that works in this game is not super ideal. Especially I've been getting back into Elden Ring, and it's like, why can't every game just feel like this? So yeah, your blocking and dodging is on your left bumper, and you have to hold it for it to really be effective. And then to dodge, as you're holding left bumper, you then flick the stick to like go in any direction. I really wish the dodge was on another button. I don't know if I'm able to remap that. I haven't really tried, but I don't know. I just wish the dodge was on another button. It makes it kind of weird, especially in a lot of these fights where you're fighting like big enemies and the dodge is pretty important. I've gotten pretty stuck on some of the bosses too, pretty early on in the game. And, you know, it did remind me a little bit of Dark Souls of like, all right, I'm just going to bash my head against this wall until I get through. And, you know, there is enjoyment in that, right, of conquering a big boss. And I just wish the controls were a little bit more modern. I wish they maybe would have mixed them up a little bit to sort of modernize them more. But, you know, there's a lot of positives in this game too, which is why I recommend it. The combat in this game is the big star, right? It's like the whole reason you play this game. There's like these brutal takedowns, and you can like cut people's limbs off. It's like a mechanic in the game. Once you cut someone's limb off, you can do I forget what they're called. It's like a devastating finisher or something like that, which is just a code word for cool takedown. There's a lot of really involved and complex combos. You can pick up a lot of weapons as you go. Like I just keep finding more weapons, which keeps surprising me. I don't know if some are better than others. I'm just kind of using whatever I think feels right. But each weapon does have its own combos, which is cool. I think I'm up to like, I don't know, 5 or 6 weapons now. And I think a lot of them might be optional. Because there was one, I found like this big giant sword in this museum. And like, I didn't have to pick that up. But I just happened to break the glass that the sword was in, and it let me take it. So I don't know if there's, you know, secret weapons you can find, stuff like that. But I think that's kind of cool. You also have magic powers, which is fun. They're a little weird. I have 3 of them unlocked so far. You use them sparingly because you've only got a couple charges of it, but the camera like zooms in on you almost to the point of being first person, and you sort of have to like pan around and lock on your targets. Again, it feels dated, but it's not like terrible. And it's a nice way to mix up just the hand-to-hand stuff you're doing a lot of the time. It's a nice way to like be like, all right, well, if I have a ton of enemies here, let me use one of my super moves to try to thin the herd, right? And it pairs nicely with the regular combat. Like I said, though, different weapons types, big fan of that. There's like, you start with the katana, obviously, but then you get the staff, which is my personal favorite weapon. I just think the combos for it are very effective, and it's the only weapon I have upgraded so far, so it just does more damage, which is why I'm using it. But you get like Wolverine claws, you get like a Scorpion Mortal Kombat hook blade kind of thing. Like I said, I just found that cool sword. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's fun to be able to use all these different weapons, and you have them like a GTA weapon wheel. You can access any of them at any time. You don't have to like slot them in, which is nice. And like I said, they all have unique movesets, and they have unique takedown animations, which is also very cool. The main character is named Ryu Hayabusa, which is just a cool name, and he's a cool looking dude because he's a ninja, but it's like a cyberpunk ninja, so it's like the future, but it's the future past, my favorite time period. Like I said, everything in this game looks fantastic because of Unreal Engine 5. I think it really shines. This game takes place in New York, which I did not know until the Statue of Liberty shows up. I was like, whoa. But it's like, because it's New York, you get a lot of like neon signs, and I mentioned the rain, and it's a really cool environment to show off this engine graphically. I'm still pretty early in it, right? Like I think I am anyway. I think there's like 17 chapters, and I'm on like chapter 6, maybe. I just got to play as a new character, which was cool. I didn't see that coming. I'm like a lady, spoilers, I guess. I'm like a lady with a pole sword thing, which is cool. So she's got her own moveset. She has her own magic powers. So yeah, I think that's pretty neat. You know, like they just keep finding ways to change up the gameplay so you're not just mashing X the whole time. And I'm excited to see where it goes, right? If they're going to get a little team up. Also, like some of the like enemies in this game are just crazy looking. Like you're just a ninja, right? Like you're just a dude. And then you end up fighting like a Goliath giant demon thing. There's lots of demons in the game. I don't really, like I said, I'm not really clear on the plot. There's like an angel guy that's flat. I think there's fiends. I think you're fighting fiends. But they look like devils, right? Like if you look up like Trigon from DC Comics, like he looks like some of the guys look like that. Very interesting. And again, you're just a ninja, right? You're just out here with your sword, just going to town on these guys. So I definitely recommend it, especially anything that comes to Games Pass. You should play it if it comes out, if you like to play games. But this one in particular, you know, it's a remake of a classic, and I think they really did a great job. And of course, having it as a shadow drop is always fun. Yeah, go try it out. So diving even deeper into the gaming grab bag, my 10,000th attempt to play Elden Ring. This game is like just the monkey on my back that I cannot get rid of. I go back to it every once in a while just because I would like to finish this game, but I have complained about this before, and I'm going to complain about it again. These From Software games without clear direction, I just get lost so easily, and I just want someone to sit me down and just tell me what to do, right? Like, I have it written in my notes here. I just want like a coach. Like, there was a news story a couple years ago of a guy that was like coaching children on how to play Fortnite, which is strange. But like, I need that for From Software games, right? Like, I need someone to sit next to me and be like, all right, here's what you got to do next. Go here, do this, fight this guy. I really, especially in Elden Ring, I really need someone to tell me how to spec out my character, because I did a respec because I figured out you can do that. And I like reset all my stats and reallocated all my stat points. And like, I'm all jacked up now. Like, well, I had these summons that I would use. I can't use them anymore because I messed up my magic. I don't have enough magic now. It's a whole thing. I'm just going to make do with what I got. I've had like the same armor, and I've only had like a handful of weapons in the game. Like, every time I see somebody playing these games, they have like cool armor and they have like a big sword or something. I just have like a spear, you know, that I've been using, and it's all upgraded. And it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? You know, I feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. That being said, I have almost 100 hours in this game. So, and I also bought Shadow of the Erd Tree, so I got to figure out how to do that, if I even can. I should be high enough level, I think, but it's like my ability is lacking for sure. But yeah, so if anyone out there coaches From Software, and like, I know you might be thinking, well, just look up a guide, right? Just look up a guide. I've looked up guides. They don't help. I get lost. I like try to follow the points, like the beats by beats in these guides. None of them ever work. And I'm also 100 hours in, so it's like, I almost wonder if I should just do a whole new playthrough. But I've gotten the satisfaction of beating so many bosses in this game that like, I don't want to do that again. Some of those fights sucked, in my opinion. Like, not like in terms of design, but in terms of difficulty. Like, tens of attempts, right? Like, I don't want to have to do all that again. I'd rather just make it work with what I got now with my level like 70 something character, and just figure out how to play the game. Like, just give me, I'll pay extra, right? Let me pay like $10 extra and just have an objective menu. That's all I want. And by the way, that's like my complaint for every From Software game. I would just like a little more direction, right? I'm an idiot. I need the carrot on the stick. But that's my Elden Ring rant. So I don't know, maybe we'll make some progress in that. What else we got? Oh yeah, if you're a From Software coach, email nocreditsrolled@gmail.com, okay? I dare you, please. I'm not going to pay you, but if you do it out of the kindness of your heart, I'll give you a shout out. What else we got in the gaming grab bag? Still working my way through Final Fantasy 16. Obviously gave that a glowing review last episode. I've definitely hit a lull in the game. There was a time jump in the story, which was pretty cool. Lots of narrative stuff happened. I've just been playing other stuff though, so I just haven't had the time to sit down and like really just bang out chunks of this story. I still think there's a lot to go though. And I don't want to spoil any elements of the story for those of you that haven't played it. But the time jump is pretty cool. Still recommend you go play that game though. Thought I'd have more to say on it. Thought I'd have more in the gaming grab bag in general. It turns out the gaming grab bag really only had one big thing in it, which was Ninja Gaiden. And then some crumbs. You know, we scraped out the crumbs for you. So, you know, that's all I got. I think that's all I got for the show today in general, actually. So that's going to wrap up episode 21 of No Credits Rolled. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, you can always email your questions or comments, or if you're a certified From Software Elden Ring coach, email all that over to nocreditsrolled@gmail.com. And make sure you subscribe to the show. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're on Spotify, Apple, we're on TikTok and YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcast, we will be there. And of course, that's all I got. I'll see you next time on No Credits Rolled.